Hi, Bink.
Hi.
All right, let me get your volume a little bit.
Okay, hold on. Give me like 30 seconds.
Okay.
I was making food because
Oh,
I this is going to be a very juicy conversation.
okay. Yeah, sure, sure. So she's making a little food, which, yeah, I understand. Okay. I don't know what I subscribed to that got on my. Cool. Da, da, da. It'd be just a little. That's okay.
Okay.
Hi.
Okay. Oh my gosh. Can you hear that?
I did hear something in the background.
Oh my god. Okay, that was fun. But yeah.
Okay, so yes, it's Bink Princess. So you are an off again on again streamer and a moderator for Joe Lewis's stream.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's mostly in the latter capacity that I initially met you, though I've dipped into your streams a few times. And so tell a little bit about, just first of all, like an introduction of yourself beyond that and what you do with your stream and such.
Okay, so oh my gosh. Hi, I'm binkprincess. I'm like the quirky streamer that everyone needs to know. Okay, let me not say that.
Oh my
Well,
god.
okay, so hi, my name is Bink. Okay, so I stream casually, as you said, and I do more research oriented content. I'm still in high school and I'm like doing college programs and stuff. So I have access to like academic databases and I really want to like finish starting up my server for that.
Yeah. And you cover like really
But
in-depth things
um
on there.
yeah, yeah. For the most part, my streams have been oriented around my essay because that is what I've been researching frequently.
Mhm.
So my essay is around the self how self defense is viewed when a black woman does it, basically. Um, and yeah, basically research content is really what it is, and then me just like raging because like how stupid history is sometimes. But I'm a history nerd, so it's a given. So yeah, that's
Yeah.
all I can say. I don't know what else to say. Like, like that's my intro. I just say stupid shit and then stream. Yeah.
Well, yeah. It's I definitely I found your stream segments very insightful and educational, if depressing because of the subject matter. Um,
Yeah. Very.
yeah.
Sadly. Very. Um, but yeah.
So yeah, this the essay project that you're working on, it's college level you mentioned, and
Yeah.
uh, And I suppose it's kind of, how self-defense is viewed when a black woman does it, and kind of contrasting that with how it's viewed when a white person does it, um,
Yeah.
and pointing out that there's a lot of disparity there.
Yeah, it's because I am doing uh historical figures in order to cover this, um and historical events who are still alive, by the way. These people are covered. I'm covering is still alive. I'm covering Astada Shakur, and I'm covering John Little
Mhm.
in my essay. So these instances happened in the 70s. So recent in my eyes, really recent in my
Yeah,
eyes.
absolutely.
So because I'm doing more of like a media analysis to some extent, it really does go over more of so how tropes are expressed in society.
Mhm.
When you actually think about it, um to put it into context is more so like stereotypes like Sapphire, or which is, I'm pretty sure is what, yeah, Sapphire is the angry black woman stereotype, and Jezebel is the stereotype of basically the over sexualized black woman.
Right.
So those two in particular are what's the basis for my essay, and I
Okay.
like go deep on that on my for like my stream and stuff.
Yeah. Um. And yeah, the latter one we covered an essay that talked quite a bit about like the adultification of black girls and such, and in part
Yeah.
with that the sexualization of them. And that's it definitely is a very disturbing trend. I am curious if you see any, like, is it moving in a different direction as more awareness is coming to that, do you think? Or is this still, just something that most people are just totally unaware of, or just unconsciously playing part in? I suspect the latter, but um,
Yeah, it's it's one of those things where it goes from overt to covert.
okay.
And I say that because one of the resources that I'm using for my essay is Sister Citizen, and it goes very much in depth how these caricatures of black women complement each other, and they're basically traded out throughout like the development of the country. So for an example, the reason why Mammy was very influential, because that was one of the reasons why slavery was justified, and then on top of that, for black women being kept in domestic jobs.
Hmm.
Another, it also was traded with the Jezebel stereotype, because the thing about the Jezebel stereotype is that other than it being very overt, it's something that I would say it's easy to sell, but it's hard to swallow.
Hmm.
And the reason why I say that is because it's easy to sell an over sexualized woman in media, period.
Yeah, that's
Anytime when it
definitely
comes
true.
to media, you can easily do that. But the issue is when communities start to protest. So for instance, right, a lot of some people, and this is what I mean by like it being switched out, right? So some people have the conception of popular black women in media, music specifically, such as like Cardi B or Megan Thee Stallion, even Nicki Minaj, that they are basically Jezebels.
Yeah, they're
In a
viewed
lot
as
of
sex
people's
symbols.
eyes, they
Absolutely.
are Jezebels. But the issue is how, and when you talk about this, is how stereotypes um give little wiggle room for like autonomy in the sense
Mm.
of like developing of your own identity, because for some people within the black community, those figures aren't necessarily a Jezebel. They are more so a sign of progress, a sign of unification, a sign of I'm claiming my own body. But because that is, a more eternal thing, the external viewpoint of it is Jezebel.
Mm.
So as I said, like it went from more overt to covert,
Yeah.
because it's a thing of like, this is kind of more like a writing issue, but when it comes on to writing characters, no matter what type of media it is, um, there is a thing of like, how can I make this story spicy without inflicting stereotypes? Because the thing about stereotypes is stereotypes are always, it's always a different viewpoint. So for the Jezebel stereotype, for an example, right? One of the reasons why the Jezebel stereotype was so reinforced is because when colonialism was happening and when Europeans was intruding Africa, they saw African sexuality as very, how do I say this? It's either you're a R word, or you're like, or you are a very hypersexualized woman, because people didn't have the viewpoint of the body being inherently sexual.
Right.
So because of that case, it's a thing of like, I forgot what the hell I was going on with this, but you get my point. that whole that whole thing, I like zone out a lot. I'm so sorry.
It's fine. It's fine. Um, yeah, it's. I mean, this is. It's kind of an open conversation. We'll get to the meat of things in a bit. I just wanted to kind of touch on your area of research because that's
Yeah.
also very interesting and gives. Like I said,
Whoa.
I've been learning a fair bit on your occasional streams there. Oh, these bots.
Yeah.
Go away, bot.
Oof.
Yeah, the typical buy viewers and stuff. So yeah, out of curiosity, do you find do you ever encounter pushback when you are trying to like report on any of these things or like talk about these things? Like, how often do you encounter folks who actually try and just straight up deny facts about?
I think, how do I say this? I get pushback when people are ignorant.
Yeah, that's fair.
And it is pushback in the sense of like, I don't feel like I should be bringing up intricate details of slavery or Jim Crow,
Right.
or even Reconstruction, in order to get my point across. Like, I shouldn't be saying, hey, yo, slavery is serious, and you disagreeing with me, and I have to bring up, like, I don't know, like child abuse in order to get my point across. Like, I've limited my interactions with people when it comes on to that, due to the fact that I believe when it comes on to these topics, that even surface level textbook stuff, how can you not take that seriously? Do you see what I'm saying? Like,
Right.
no, it's all good. But even like I even know the picture had a name. the picture name is something along the lines of um what is it? Oh my god. His name is something like George or something like that. Like Whipped Peter, I think his name.
Oh, yeah.
Whipped Peter. Yeah, I think that's his name. Whipped Peter. Yeah, Whipped Peter. There you go. Oh my gosh, me being a history nerd, having all this up my head. Okay, per. But what happened is that even like with Peter, right? I saw that image for the first time in third grade. I don't feel like a lot of people have excuses when it comes on to like certain aspects of these topics and to like be ignorant.
Yeah.
And even for like these and like the last thing about like the topics, because these are like what I have to hyper focus on in order to get my point across, like my essay and everything. It's like um I think it's hard for me to come to terms with how people can realize that history in general is brutal, but then at the same exact time deny the fact that it was brutal due to them wanting to be comfortable.
Right. Yeah, I think
Yeah,
that's
so
definitely a big
that's
thing. Or to,
yeah.
and JR mentions here, shouldn't have to explain all this, but there is an education problem in the country. And while I agree there is an education problem in the country, there's like, it really shouldn't have to fall like on you, or to educate about this. Like, I'm also curious, like, in the course of researching this, that like it's gotta, I'm curious what kind of mental toll it takes on you, or emotional toll, because it is heavy, and it happened to your people, like your ancestors. And it's like, I can't even begin to imagine what that would be like reading about from that more personal perspective.
Uh, it's hard because my family is foreign.
Mhm.
I'm not. My family's not from here. I'm first generation American,
Okay.
and the issue I have is that I'm basically like stuck in purgatory. Like I'm stuck in the middle
Okay.
when it comes on to culture clash, and and I've said this in school today, which is really ironic, but the constant reminder of your identity,
Right.
because though it is okay, I am black, queer, and I try to, out myself, but no, it's like, stuff like that. It's also, well, your family's not from here. Your culture is different. Your value system is going to be different. Like the way people are going to view you, fetishize you, people are going to look down upon you. Like all of these constant, themes. And because I do live in the South, I have to, see the historical sites. I have
Mm-hmm.
to see, the fact that like the KKK be out here, chilling in the north part of my state. Like I have to deal with those facts, and I can never really like, how do I say this? I can never look at my heritage besides, my African American side,
Right.
because it's so pushed upon me. And I don't really believe in like glorification of like your heritage or anything, but it's also the thing of like my parents are old school. So their
Old school.
concept of like, race relations and stuff is different, um because of, them being old school, and also because they grew up in a different part of the world.
Mm.
And then and for me, I have, socialist or communist tendencies, because due to the fact that my family is, Jamaican, a lot of basic very basic core like stuff is rooted in that culture. Like and it's hard for me to, see these images, because The reason why it's hard for me to just directly answer your question um, is because I see myself,
Right.
and it's not like, okay, it's your people. It's like, no, this literally could be me.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
I have to look at like the Jezebel stereotype for an example. The fact that there isn't not isn't how the fact that people don't talk about how there was literally a whole sex trade during slavery. How people literally don't talk about that. That's never talked about. It's never brought up. It's never talked about how the fact that freed women, you know, basically had kind of like a sugar daddy relationship with plantation owners in order to actually get by. Like, nobody ever talks about these things, and it's literally like disheartening because my mom and my grandma are light skinned.
Hmm.
Like, I don't have like Afrocentric features. Like, this could have been me. Like, I could have been the first one. And that's the thing that's like aggravating to me, because people don't act people don't understand how hurtful it is. And it's hard for me to even finish my essay, and I even have to keep constantly reminding my teacher of this, that like every single time I start my research, this is what I'm seeing. It's not like, a gradual, gradual push into the subject. It's like, no, like, this is constant themes over and over again. Like, I put in the server how like the fact it, like, I was mind blown how many like photos the Library of Congress have about like Black Wall Street. Like,
Yeah.
just they have like 10 to like 20 photos, and I'm like, hold up, like, you're telling me this exists? Like, it's a thing of like, it gives you angst.
And that
And then on top of that,
and that
you
one guy's
see
collection of
like,
postcards that you brought up.
right,
Yeah.
you're telling me like a white man who was born in like the 50s, grew up in the 60s, has a whole entire collection of lynching postcards and publishes it, and nobody bats an eye. Like,
And makes money off
yo,
of it. Like,
not even make money off of it. The way it's like where the person like started to collect it and everything,
yeah.
like, that city is 30 minutes away from me. Like,
Wow.
this stuff is like really,
Jeez.
really, really close to like home, and it's just
Got some
surprising how like people tend to like water that dynamic.
got a comment from a viewer here on Endless Cemeteries. Mentions Black pride isn't just about having black skin, it's about defiance in the face of a society that tells you you should be ashamed of that skin. It's pride in the strength and survival of your ancestors who fought that same fight and won.
Yeah.
Mentions also, it's curious to ask about Wilmington, North Carolina.
Wilmington. What is that?
I'm not sure.
I'll give you like even a snippet into what I mean by like, for my family being Jamaican. I'll give you a joke. So that's a saying, by the way. That's a saying. It's like, I'll tell you something. I'll give you a joke, but regardless.
Oh, it's where they overthrew the government.
What happened is that so during slavery, right, Jamaica was a sugar colony for the British and for Spain originally, right?
Yes.
And, pirates, tyrants, and all that stuff, right? Now, what happened is that there was a war called the Baptist War. And it was a slave rebellion. I forgot his name. Damn, I'm really out here wilding with the names. But all you need to know. Oh, Sharp. There you go.
Sharp.
His name is Sharp. Yeah. So what happened is that Sharp was basically a mailman, and he he's a slave. He runs around the island and basically like, gives letters and everything. But he's also a preacher, and he gives, go around the island, gives out mail and everything, and he basically gets most of the slave population to go on a strike. Let's just let that sink in. Not, I want to be free. No, I'm going on a strike. I want decent housing. I want living wage, and I want healthcare. That's literally what they said. And I want to be freed. That's literally what they said. So
Wow.
like that happened, and then what happened is that you know the British.
Oh yeah,
So
I
you
know
know
the British.
The British murdered them, of course.
Even
And
when
then
they
the
lose, they
survivors they
win
live.
somehow.
But the thing about it is that they were doing the strike, right?
Yeah.
And what happened is that they did the strike, and you know they start shooting into the crowd and everything.
Of course.
When people started to running away and everything, they started to burn down everything.
Oh.
They started committing arson. Was it arson?
Arson, yeah.
Yeah, they committed arson and burned down a whole bunch of plantation. And the estimate of how much it was, like in modern day currency, is around like I think 1.5 million in property damage.
Woo.
And that and in context, that is a lot, because the Jamaican dollar, so the Jamaican dollar is worth less than American dollars. American dollars is like 1 American dollar is like 1,500 in Jamaican dollars.
Oh, okay.
And it's the Jamaican dollar is similar to like yen, like how it's in thousands and stuff.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of money.
So
yeah.
So
Very constant themes.
So speaking of Jamaica, that segue is nice to what prompted me to reach out to you in the first place. So it is a subject that I have tried a couple of times to begin to understand and to try and convey when reading essays that touch on the idea. But you mentioned some of your kind of search to kind of connect to your culture, your ancestry in some deeper way, and the pathways to that seem a little vague in what you were kind of describing, or challenging. I think.
Can you repeat your question?
I'm not sure.
My brother was bothering me.
So it's more about you made a comment in Joe's server, and it's what made me want to reach out to you about kind of your
philosophy chat.
Yeah, about your kind of digging into your history and your familial ancestry and such, and some of the struggles with that.
So baseline, there is Pan-African sentiment in Jamaican culture due to Bob Marley and due to Garvey.
Right.
So there is always, Africa's the motherland, and some ancestor worship to some extent, right? But for me, my issue is that I don't believe in having to connect to Africa in order to feel like I'm attached to a culture.
Okay.
A part of that is due to, as I said, my family being foreign. And a part of that is also due to, I feel like Africa as a whole is glorified. And I don't think it is necessarily it's not glorified in the sense of like glorification. It's more of like a fetishization energy. Like,
okay.
An aesthetics thing. It's not even like, okay, I'm gonna acknowledge and I'm gonna keep go on my way. It's more so like, this has to be where everything comes from. And I understand the sentiment, because don't get me wrong, I pull it that way, but I don't think that when it comes on to me wanting to connect with my ancestors, I have to go take a DNA test in order to figure out if I'm Ghanaian or I'm Ethiopian or whatever the case may be. Like, I don't
Mm.
think I should be having to reach that far in order to feel some type of connection to my ancestors. When it comes on to my family being Jamaican, the peoples who are there are not at all a significant part of the population. I would be surprised if they even had like a few tribes there, to be honest, because British and Spaniards. So
Right.
like that. And then also due to that being, practically the background, because historical knowledge is limited. If
Right.
I was to try to, right, we shouldn't need to verify our history. We are all humans, true.
True.
But basically, I feel like I should. The fact that I have to dwell in European history in order to try to get an ounce of validation for my history feels type of way. Like, it's the specific topic was historical sewing, and because not everybody had historical records, and a lot of this was just practice because it's natural life. It it makes me feel some type of way that I have to depend on a European point of view in order to get a sense of what was going on in the time period and how these people actually lived. And even when it is a person of color talking about these historical events, and how life was, I have to dig in a database, I have to pay, I have to go on Wikipedia, and Wikipedia barely even have any sources, and I have to buy $50 textbooks. I have to do all of these things in order to just see that I exist in history.
Mm.
And and that's the thing that's like the most hurtful. Like, I have to like it's a thing of like privilege from my end. Like, I understand that I don't have it as good as like the most richest person in the world, or whatever case maybe. It doesn't really matter. But at the same exact time, I'm curious. I'm intellectually curious when it comes to these topics,
Yeah.
and I find enjoyment in learning, and not everybody has that. So for me, I feel like I'm privileged to some degree because I am actively looking towards seeing this. Not everybody has a passion for history, and a lot of times when you go through the American education system, it's a very bland view of history. And then on top of that, it's like you leave school not having a passion for anything, and then the misconception that they taught you in the textbook, it's just the way you view life. Like, for an example, right, I'm privileged enough to go take a college course, and I took world history modern, right? I took world history modern, and they basically talk about how, okay, guys, yeah, Africans sold themselves to Europeans, but they clarify and say, hey, yo, the two types of slavery was different, so they really and truly did not know. Nobody ever talks about that, and it's a common talking point, and it's a common misconception that basically, hey, yo, they knew. So like, it's a thing of like the fact that I have to deep dive just to know I exist is tiring.
Oh, absolutely.
Frank, Frankel,
Uh,
Frackle. Is it Frackle or Frankel?
Freckle.
Frackle.
Yeah.
Yeah, Frackle. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's, yeah, I agree with, like, and Alyssa saying this is also crucial. Like, it's also, I really wish that more I do wish that there were more open discussions about this sort of thing and more interest in the history, because like, speaking from my own perspective, it's difficult enough when I want to understand to begin to try, but you know, there's just kind of a, like you said, a overall cultural collective effort by white people especially to smooth things over as much as possible and just, gloss through the history and say, yeah, that all happened back then and it's fine now, because we're detached from it. When I say we, I mean white people. We aren't as impacted by it, so we do have a tendency to just kind of pretend that, okay, yeah, bad things happened and now it's fine, and let's just kind of vaguely gesture at it, but not really look at it that closely. But yeah, that is not only hurtful to it's hurtful to everyone, because it does leave a lot of room for ignorance, and ignorance is the root of all kinds of bad shit.
True.
Yeah.
I think it's a thing of I don't think a lot of what I've learned is such a stretch.
Mhm.
And that's the thing that aggravates me. We were in a class and my teacher's thing of like put on a different hat,
Mhm.
to view different point of views. And it's a thing of like he said something along the lines of basically they're inconsistently consistent, which is true.
Yeah.
um it's a thing of like you're just looking at these things and it's like it's not such a leap to say these things exist. Like, okay, for example, right, like how I talked about how basically they had they were trading black women like Pokemon cards
Right.
out here. Like that's not a like that's new, that's not a jump. It's not a jump. So
No,
it's like
it's
the
not.
fact that there is mentions or little hints in the textbook, and it has to take me giving you an eyewitness account. It has to take, me dwelling into the life of slavery. It takes me, showing you Jim Crow pictures of people swinging from a branch. Like the fact that these images have to traumatize you because you don't stop seeing them. You don't
Yeah.
stop seeing them all of a sudden. You're not looking away. That junk sticks with you.
Yeah.
So the fact that I have to find a way to traumatize you in order for you to, find some sort of, relatability with me, it feels off. Because I think the thing about it is that when discussing these topics, and this is why I kind of don't really like states in general, to be honest with you, is like you should take no shame in the fact that your history is stupid. History is stupid. People are stupid. People are inconsistent. And people are cruel. You shouldn't, feel some type of way because you had slavery or X, Y, and Z. Because best believe somebody on the other side of the world, somebody you never met, has the same, has something similar going on. A lot of the times when it comes on to history, and my teacher really presses on it. I keep talking about my teacher because my teacher is very influential, cause life, yeah. But when it comes on to history in general, you see the constant theme of critiquing states.
Yeah.
critiquing power dynamics, critiquing the fact that these structures have always been here. It just depends on how people implement it and how people are affected by it.
Right.
Do you see what I'm saying? So the fact that people, like states, like whatever, country you're from, feel so like hurt because you're it's gonna make us look bad, or the case may be. It's like it feels like an immature mentality when it comes on to you wanting to improve society and you wanting to have your people living better. Because for the most part, when it comes on to you and your government, like the government contract and everything, other than like protection and everything, I feel like the state's supposed to have a trend of well-being,
It's
in
supposed
my
to.
opinion. So like it's wild how like it has to take people publicly calling you out in order for you to fix your shit. And it's just like, you guys are grown folks in government. You're telling me you can't have a mature conversation about history, about politics, but that's your way of living. That's your way you make your money. Like,
Yeah.
it's weird and
It is.
beyond weird.
It is. It is very disturbing. Um, uh, and yeah, I agree. I think. Uh, sorry, I'm jumping back a little bit. Also, in subjects, because I've been kind of percolating about what you mentioned about the kind of European telling of Africa. Like, before I actually just tried to learn anything on my own, my actual education from school about Africa started and ended as a note about slavery, and that's kind of it. But there's obviously a lot more there that,
Right.
doesn't need glorification or anything, but should be more honestly told.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And also about shame. Um, I think that is a huge problem. And that attempt to shield from feelings by, especially by white people, it does really limit the lens of history that gets taught. But it shouldn't be about shame. It should be about understanding what the hell is going on so that you can fix your shit. Um, when people are either systematically disciplined into ignorance or willfully choose ignorance, they don't even have a basis to recognize what's going on and try and course correct it or do their part.
Right.
And it is maddening. I don't know how to fix that except I um like I can only do my own bit. But
Um
like I really hope that we can get to a place where people are more willing to actually teach history, real history, and not kind of a sanitized mythical version of it.
yeah, uh and the thing about it is that I'm not saying, I'm pretty sure we're both not saying to actively, teach every detail of history,
No,
whatever the
no.
case may be. Nobody's ever, saying that. The issue is, I shouldn't have to wait until 10th grade in order to be taught that Africa wasn't just people, half naked, in huts,
Yep,
hunting with sticks and stones. It shouldn't take that long,
it should not.
when you're in just the basis of how education system works currently. It shouldn't take that long when people are tired and when people are worn out when it comes on to having an education in general. People, and this is kind of like when kind of answering your question when it comes on to how do we fix this? Support kids in their like their curiosity. That's just
There
simple.
you go.
Give people the tools in order to, pursue knowledge. That's all you have to do. Support your kids. And it's not even like and I don't believe it should be a parental thing. I don't think it should just be a parental thing. It should be an institutional thing too.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's all you really have to do, because a lot of the times when it comes onto the conversations that I can talk to anybody about the conversation, talk about the conversations about literally everybody, let everybody I talk about these topics with literally everybody in their grandma, mama, and auntie, and nobody have a problem with it, and they literally say the same exact thing. It just, they don't like to talk about it because they're worn out. Like the
Mm.
fact, like as I said, think about it like this, right? So if I didn't have like the curiosity for it, right, you know how draining it would be, other than like emotionally, but just, effort and work it is for me to find somebody that looks like me. Like, just to like, even like, say like if it was like an older like generation or whatever the case may be, right?
Yeah.
And it's not an internet thing. You don't got the internet, what you gonna do? Go to your library, and your library is probably like whitewashed as hell too. Like,
Mine
what
certainly
are you
is.
going to do? So like,
Yeah.
it's a thing of like resources and supporting, kids when they have curiosity. As I said, I'm privileged as hell for having adults consistently in my life supporting me on like my journey when it comes to history and politics. But just like the fact that I'm privileged for people just supporting me in my passion is ridiculous to me. Like, I don't think it has to be, other arts is a separate issue, because arts is low-key just a hobby, you making money. But the fact that like it has to be these specific occupations or these specific passions in order for like people to support you in like your everyday
Yeah.
life is wild to me.
Yeah. That I think is, I mean, that's getting into a major critique of capitalism, where only certain things have value. And I'm sorry, like the shit that I do in work, that it's not bringing a whole lot of good to the world, but people who are actually like creating music and art and shit, like that's what actually makes people's lives richer and should certainly be valued a hell of a lot more. Like,
True.
I don't know.
Context. I took world history modern like 2 years ago, 3 years ago, and we did have an African history section. The issue is that the African section, in my opinion, wasn't as rich and in depth as, say, like the Asian history or
Right.
the history of Latin Americas. It wasn't as in depth. It was more so like, ayo, Mali Empire exists. Ayo, shout out to you. Ayo, Moors existed. Ayo, shout out to my girl in Zimbabwe. Ayo, you kind of did something, and that's it.
Yeah, and then a little bit more about like Egypt, because there's pyramids there.
Oh yeah. Oh, it's modern, so we don't go over Egypt. So,
Oh,
yeah.
okay, right.
Oh, they cut the curriculum, so it's everything after the Roman Empire.
Okay, gotcha.
Well, the fall of the Roman Empire.
Jeez. Yeah,
So, yeah.
it's weird. Like, because yeah, I agree with Endless. It should definitely be part of world history, and really isn't. And I do think a lot of it is because the Eurocentric view tries to bury Africa as much as it can.
Yeah.
Like, it really does.
Bad too.
Yeah.
And like, just correction, because I will say this, and there's some things I really don't care about keeping at the kitchen table. Insane. when I said glorification of Africa, I wasn't necessarily saying like like a general trend. I personally said that because I'm tied to a culture outside of being African American,
Sure.
like black in America. So due to that fact, I have a privilege because I can say I came from X, Y, and Z. I can say this came from my culture. But the way American society is set up and a lot of other Western society too, you're for the African American and for other other marginalized groups, you existing as you is devalued. It is only valued when it's profitable, and it's most likely going to be profitable when it's on someone who doesn't look like you, and it's even more profitable when it's you're white. So when it comes on to being African American historically, it's a thing of like it's like generational African Americans like that.
Hmm.
It's a thing of like you can't have nothing. So there's a tendency that I personally see that when it comes on to African Americans, a tendency to cling on to Africa, because that's what you want something to cling on to because they take everything that you make up yourself.
Yeah.
So that's why I say to some degree of fetishization, because I understand that point of view, but there's people who like take it an extra mile and like make that their whole personality trait. Like I had a coworker when I had worked my job that he's African American, and I mentioned that I'm Jamaican. It's literally all of a sudden the whole entire conversation is about me being Jamaican and how like ayo history and X, Y, and Z. And I'm like, bro, like why are we you don't gotta you don't gotta do me like that, homie. Like I'm black like you. Like we're just chill. Like you
Mm.
know.
Yeah.
So that's more so what it is than not giving Africa credit or stuff like that.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. I didn't take that any sort of way, but yeah, it's a fair clarification. Um, oh, am I? Did I thought I changed?
You
Jesus.
still are not even with.
I am a hot mess tonight.
I feel like
Sorry.
it's a more modern version of Gangs of New York movie that Republicans do for like Bill, just super exclusionary. I don't get that reference.
I
But yeah, true, totally, totally true. Western education is sadly lacking. They don't even mention slavery more than 4 times in some American schools.
no, I appreciate you,
Uh,
Jane. That's good. So yeah, there, and the other part is, you know, you being Jamaican, like, what is probably frustrating at times, I imagine, is um, when you are seen in society uh, having, darker skin, you just are lumped in. Like, there's just generalizations about all black people, that there's a general view to make them monolithic. And I'm curious what sorts of ways maybe that has manifested that you've encountered.
okay, so this is the thing. Okay, this is kind of why I said like kitchen table talk, because if I'm talking to like about the black community with the black community, I'm gonna say monolithic shit all the fucking time. Like I'm gonna be talking about all black men do X, Y, and Z. I'm gonna keep saying all black women do X, Y, and Z. I'm gonna keep talking about all Nigerians like they all the same. I'm gonna do that because I feel like what people tend to lack is that I don't really care about monolith, like treating a group as a monolithic thing,
Hmm.
because it's just generalizations and more so like a constant theme than just being like all people are like this. Like yeah, no shit, like there's people who internalize that differently or act that differently, but just me saying like a blanket statement in my eyes shouldn't be inherently bad in my opinion. That's just how I personally view things, because like I talk about black people like a monolith and I really don't give a shit when people try to correct me, because I don't sometimes I feel like nuance doesn't matter. Like I don't think me talking about like
Oh, I meant more.
I don't
Hmm.
um like like trends as in like the way like black women are seen
Yeah.
across
No,
like the world or whatever is like, you know, treating people like a monolith, and we should never do that. I
yeah.
really don't care, basically.
No,
but
I think Endless brings
but
up a good point here that
yeah.
he says we can do that within our own community because we understand it's not really used to oppress. I was more curious if you've encountered it impressed upon you in ways that you found jarring or harmful, especially from like white people. um,
Um, I think my only issue is I don't like when white people talk about like kitchen table stuff
yeah.
when it comes on to black people. It's like a thing, right? Let me not name drop. Let me not. Let me not.
Okay.
But
No name
it's
dropping.
like say 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 we're talking about colorism for an example, right?
Sure.
We're talking about colorism, which for the girls that don't know, it's basically, you know, categorizing people and their desirability based on their skin tone, period. It's not race, it's just skin tone.
Yeah.
That's it. Right. So if I let a white person come into my space and we like, ayo, little Timmy, not gonna lie, you know, there's a trend of dark skinned black women being less desirable, dark skinned men being considered more masculine, light skinned men being considered more feminine, and light skinned women being considered more desirable as a whole. If I tell you that, I don't need you to be on a panel talking about that, or you being on a or you having a YouTube video, whatever the case may be, going like using that as like a gotcha. I don't need that to be a thing because
Hmm.
it's a thing of we're letting you be in this space because it is a thing of intimacy. I feel like people lack the it's not even just tokenizing. It's like you uh, other than well, it is tokenizing, but it's like a thing of how do I say this? There is a sentiment in a lot of communities, not just black communities, that when we let you come in our house and eat our food, it is intimate. Like
Hmm.
like there's a thing, right? I saw this before where it was talking about like the concept of like box braids or like cornrows, right?
Right.
So these traditional like African hairstyles, right? And it's like it was a comment video, and um they the comment in the video was saying, well, I'm white and my black best friend did my hair, and like I went over her house and like she did my hair. And it's like, yeah, because getting your hair done is an intimate act. Period. No matter what culture that is, sitting down and getting your hair done is intimate. And then on top of that, when a lot of traditionally black hairstyles take a goddamn long time. You know how I had box braids in my head. You know how long that junk took?
I
4 hours.
wow.
4 hours, a total of 4 hours to get my head done. So when it comes on to certain acts, it's a thing of intimacy, and when you lack that respect of that intimacy, you gotta go. So like I can't do the monolithic thing when people try to weaponize it and then talk out their ass for
Yeah.
no damn reason. That's what my issue is. Right, true. Their guests, true. They can't come eat with us all the time. They gotta go, true.
Yeah.
If I'm eating and you are there, we are eating, true. The first time I got my locks twisted, it took 4 hours. Right.
Wow.
It take a long time to get um Afro textured hair done, true. Wow, true. But yeah.
Hmm.
Oh, this is just a sentiment because I said this in chat before, and you said this. Um,
Hmm?
We don't need a lot of people to like, be in our business, period. And that it doesn't matter who, like, what identity or like community is talking about. Not everybody need to be in everybody's business.
Oh yeah.
I don't know why, like, that as a concept is so controversial. Like, nobody ever says, well, white people can never, well, let me not say that because people do say that, but like nobody ever say that white people shouldn't be taken into consideration. There you go, that's a better way of saying it. Nobody ever say that. But what we are saying is that when it comes on to like certain privileged peoples, that you being in the conversation is a privilege within itself. And I think people should take that route of allyship in approaching conversations more seriously.
Absolutely. Yeah, I fully agree.
True. I'm reading chat, my bad.
So I feel like this has been kind of an issue that non-white history is. I assume you mean is not really hot. Yeah, it has been talked about. Yeah, we were dwelling on the lack of non-white history a fair bit earlier. It's just saying that sometimes there are spaces exclusive to white people. There are, and even so. To expand on what Endless is saying, and I suspect that you're implying this as well. There are spaces that are not just exclusive to white people, like by implementation, but just de facto, where yes, non-white people can participate, but can't act in a non-white manner, or they get kind of shunned or treated weird. And that's a phenomenon that has been. I've been trying to rack my brain about how to address it. What I'm saying is correct, but yeah, like. And this is something that's especially true, I think, in like the online Twitch politics space and some of this stuff, which you and I have talked about a little bit, Bink. How a lot of these communities, you have to take the white perspective, and anyone who tries to challenge that status quo gets kind of their shit kicked in. Yeah.
It's and this is the thing about it too, right? I think people don't fully understand what they're talking about. And it's not necessarily saying go read theory, nerd. It's not saying that. It just, you're going to tell me with a straight face that all of the academics and all of the eyewitness accounts, all of the people who are of my community throughout history has never taken into consideration that a white person exists or that they might infringe on their rights. Like, that's the sentiment that you're giving when it comes on to, saying that privileged peoples have to be in these conversations. Like, that's like, we have to depend on the fact that, that privileged peoples have power. Like, I don't think that's a good precedent to set when it comes on to activism in general.
Well,
and it's kind of like mind-blowing to how common that is.
That entire attitude is built to protect white power over others. Like, that is the effect of that attitude, which is basically, you need to involve us or we will maintain white power. Like, that's the subtext. And I don't think it's intentional per se, but it doesn't really matter if it's intentional, because only the actual end result matters. it's why I really dislike the term ally, because it's like, it's not. Allyship is not a thing. You're either a decent human being or you're a shitbag. Those should be the actual two labels. Um, it, being an ally shouldn't be like a medal that you get for acting like a decent human being. um,
No, actually though, it, um, and like that's the thing. People, I keep seeing this because like I am a young person, but it's just, and I did mature early. Let me not say that, but basically like there's certain themes that I'm seeing
mhm.
that's like alarming to me.
Like
Like
what?
I feel like you should know how to navigate around people in general. Like when it comes on to, um uh, noticing social cues,
Mm,
noticing personal red flags, noticing how someone may talk or talk differently or have a different personality. Like there's certain things when it comes on to just interacting with a person in general that I realize that a lot of people lack. um and um and it does feel, some type of like, isolation, because I do notice these things, and I do, like, in my opinion, navigate correctly. But it's just a thing of like, being decent and basically understanding the world around you,
yeah.
in like my opinion.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And I think that there is a trend towards towards kind of tribalism of behavior, like homogeny of behavior, and um, you know, basically looking down on those who act in other ways or speak in other ways. I mean, speaking personally, growing up, I had a um, I have to admit things sometimes. I had a very dim view of people who spoke, AAVE, um, or spoken slang terms and such. Um, and I had a bias that meant that they were like less intelligent. And in the course of things, I've come to realize that has nothing to do with intelligence. It's a mode of speaking that is developed when you're interacting with people who speak that way. I grew up in a household where, like, my parents, like, my mom's like a very rigid PhD, so she was obsessed with speaking and writing correctly all the time, which is a trend I still largely have. But it means nothing. It's uh, and I cringe also
um
about the way that English is taught, that there is like one singular way that it must be used professionally.
yeah,
And I
I
get
agree.
that, but at the same time, it seems kind of limiting and destructive, and also the language is always changing, so why not allow it to explore and expand as people use language, right? Like,
Right. um I'll
kind of rambled there, sorry.
anyway, no, it's perfectly fine. I actually appreciate you saying that, because I think people are afraid to be wrong
Hmm.
or to show their personal progress. and
Most of my
and I
life, I was wrong. I'll say that.
no, it's okay. Like I'll like tell like my part, um just kind of one of the things that I mean by like my identity is like constantly like push it like my face.
Hmm.
Growing up as a kid, so my whole family is a Jamaican. My mom is from there, and my dad is first gen American.
Okay.
And what happened is that my dad speaks quote unquote proper.
Yeah.
And I have some type of accent, you can already tell. And kind of a lot of mixing going on because, like, yeah. But basically, growing up, I would, copy my mom when it comes on to her accent and, interacting. I have a lot of women in my family. So a lot of women that speak patois.
Okay.
And my dad used to actually, pull me to the side and be like, no, that's not how you say it.
Oh, geez.
It's like, tell me, like, I have to keep repeating it until I say it correctly. I'll give like an example. When it comes onto the way I speak, right? You say way and I say we.
Mm.
So I would have to sit there and say way, way, way
Mm.
over and over again. And I was in like first grade kindergarten.
Wow.
And sometimes I would get popped for it. So yeah. But I don't know. People when it comes to language is weird.
It is.
Genuinely weird.
It is. Like, what I find most fascinating about the kind of societal obsession with the correct mode of language is in every bit of art that people appreciate, language is stretched and not used that way. Like in lyrics, in movies, in everything that we see, it takes a more informal structure. And it's like, why do we try and anchor this one singular way of communicating when everything that we create that has some beauty deviates from that? It's really a jarring disconnect. And I don't know quite how to square that one. A lot of the divergence I can kind of come up with a rationale for, but that one's one that's strange. Speaking of music, this is kind of very off topic, and this is almost more for Endless to mention, or to mention to Endless. I've been doing a little bit of research into music history because I was curious about something, and it is kind of incredible just how many music styles have been stolen and co-opted from the original creators and then just like championed by like white people. Like
Europe.
yeah, I mean it comes up in way more places than I expected, from like rock and roll to jazz to techno to EDM to fucking blues, punk, all of these things. Like I was trying to dig into some of the origins of this stuff. I was like, whoa. And it's not, it like sometimes it's from like Latin America, or the Latin population. Sometimes it's from African like it's all over the place. There are some genuinely like white centric music styles, but they also tend to be the most boring ass ones. Like electronic body music is like a white creation, but man, it's bland. Every transgressive genre gets co-opted and spun. Yeah.
That's why you have Nazi skinheads when the genre was literally invented by British Jamaican rude boys. Talk about it.
Dang.
Literally talk about it.
Yeah.
Forgot what his name was, but the person who basically did dubstep before dubstep. One
Oh,
Jamaican,
yeah.
got his name. But I don't know. I was listening to his music and I was like, this is totally different. Buju, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, it's it's weird because like sometimes it's co-opted and the dynamic is just gone.
Yeah.
Like
Well,
you can the thing about it is when it come on to music.
a lot of times the aesthetic or trappings are taken, but not the soul or the intent of the genre.
Oh,
Because
it's not even that. Like it was the one. Okay, so okay, for an example, right? The thing that makes the reggae so genuine, old school reggae,
Mhm.
is because of the limited resources, and also due to everything was live audience, right? Dance hall too, right? If
Yes,
everything was done live,
it
so
was a product of the limitations that made it work. Yeah,
yeah. So now like when you hear
studio
people do
engineered.
right, it's not the same, it's not the
Yeah,
same at all. Like
it's how
just
hip hop was.
hearing like the you know um
Yeah,
it's Black Anarchy. True.
yeah.
Gonna party no matter what you give
I
us.
love it. I
True.
love it.
Having dance hall in the streets. True. Let me not say that because I'm not old enough. But regardless, um, but it's when I was listening to it, I was just like, you just lack. You just lack the beat. Like you don't
Yeah,
have like the genuine strum of the strongs no more. Like it's just like it's gone. Like it's just it sounds too perfect.
right. Yeah. And that, yes, that's very much it. Because there are actually times when the music is allowed to slightly speed up, slightly slow down in subtle ways that don't hold that perfect beat, but emphasize, right? Like it,
Right.
those subtle things, borrowed time in music, can actually make it better, even if it is slightly less clinically perfect.
Oh,
Hmm.
by the way, I'm a goody two shoes. Of course, I'm gonna stay in school.
Yeah, no.
I just know what it is because, like, you know, if you know, you know. There's no way you cannot know.
Move from
But
analog
as
to
I said,
digital, yeah.
my my parents are old school, so they talk about old school dancehall and old school reggae like crazy. You know how many times my grandma will play what is it called, Sean Paul, or like Sasha. You know how many times like my family is really like my family is really something sometimes.
Yeah. All right. So I think that I've held you for an hour here. I think I'm gonna see about wrapping up here. Do you have any kind of closing thoughts?
Closing thoughts.
Or,
Uh,
or anything you wanted to add or expand on before wrapping it up?
Anything adding or expanding
Yeah, I
on?
agree with endless. I really value this conversation and appreciate you for taking the time.
Yeah, no problem. I think uh I'm so sorry for the racket in the
It's
back,
fine.
but um I think what's I think closing thoughts.
Yeah.
Closing thoughts is no, it's okay. It's okay. I'm not taking it to heart. I'm just letting you know. But But closing thoughts. I think people are weird.
Yeah.
And I think it's very uh it is very essential for humans to grow as a species, because species, peoples, whatever, to notice that we are going to inherently be different, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's good to try to uphold um, ideas that and try to apply them as consistently as possible,
Hmm.
not in order to just be consistent, but in order to be fair, because life isn't fair. um, and
True.
to try to value people's happiness and sanity. And I think the only thing else I would say is thank you for putting me on here, bro. Thank you.
God.
Thank you for putting me on
No,
here.
no, honestly, thank you
Gen Z humor. Oh
for
my gosh,
taking
forgive me, guys.
for taking the time to be on here. Really does mean a lot. Um,
But but yeah, follow me on Twitch because I have to plug in my stuff because I'm maybe streaming now. But
yes, do
plug
follow her.
in,
I've
yeah,
plugged that
and
address a couple times, but I'll post it again.
you push it again.
Yeah, I'll do it again.
but Pure Vibes and Octopus and Nemo and back.
Perfect. Love the
Yeah,
octopus.
yeah.
All right. Thank you again so much. Yeah, we're gonna close up stream here. And yeah, thank you
Yeah.
again, Bink Princess, and thanks everyone for coming out to listen. I'll put this on YouTube and I'll send you the link for that. Okay.
All right. Thanks, love. Later.
Take care.